Welcome, dear listener. You are with Historian Radio now, where the past speaks softly, not in the clash of swords, but in the breath between choices. Tonight, we begin a story that stretches across time, ambition, marble, and blood. A story, whispered in every hallway of power since it was first carved into stone. This is the rise of Gaius Julius Caesar. Not yet the conqueror of Gaul, not yet the man who crossed the Rubicon, not yet the name spoken at the moment of betrayal. Tonight, he is only a boy from a fading family, in a city that hungers for greatness. Let us begin, where all ambition begins, with uncertainty. He was born in July, a humid, sticky, Roman summer, the kind of heat that makes marble sweat. Gaius Julius Caesar was not born into emperorship, he was born into possibility. His family, the Iuli, was patrician, yes, old, yes, but by the time Caesar was born, their name carried more dust than power. His father was a modest governor, his mother, Aurelia, strong-willed and watchful. It would be her quiet guidance, not her husband's status, that shaped Caesar's spine. He was not born into greatness. He would have to take it. Rome in Caesar's childhood was not the shining republic of civic virtue described in marble inscriptions. It was a city of debt, glory, violence, and rising tides of civil unrest. The republic was stretched thin. Grain, shortages, unstable currency, old aristocrats clutching tradition, while populists stirred the lower classes like coals in a fire. Sulla, the ruthless general and dictator, marched on Rome itself twice to purge his enemies and restore the republic. In this world, power didn't whisper, it shouted, and it marched in boots. Caesar was a teenager when Sulla came to power, and already he had made enemies. When Caesar was barely 16, he took a dangerous step. He married Cornelia, the daughter of Cinna, one of Sulla's fiercest opponents. This was not a marriage for love. It was a marriage of conviction. Sulla demanded he divorce her. Caesar refused. He lost his family fortune. He was stripped of his priesthood, and Sulla sent agents to kill him. Caesar fled. He shaved his head. He hid in the countryside, where we first see the shape of the man he would become, not reckless, but willing to gamble everything for the right alignment of loyalty. Eventually, friends intervened. Sulla, impatient and cold, spared him with a warning. In that boy, he muttered, "I see many a Marius." He meant danger. He was right. Exiled from comfort, Caesar turned to the one thing Rome always respected: military service. He joined campaigns in Asia Minor, where he proved his courage. He was decorated for valor, even offered a civic crown, one of the highest honors Rome could give. But he wanted more than medals. He wanted a name. In his mid-20s, Caesar set sail to study oration in Rhodes. On the way, pirates took him hostage. They demanded 20 talents of silver. Caesar laughed in their faces. "Ask for 50. I'm worth more." He treated his captors like subordinates. He read them poetry. He told them stories. He warned them that, when he was free, he would return and crucify them all. They laughed. They shouldn't have. Once ransomed, Caesar gathered ships, hunted the pirates down, and made good on his promise. But in a gesture of mercy, he had their throats slit before nailing them to crosses. This was Caesar, charming, deadly, calculating, yet human enough to offer swift death to those he crushed. Balance of cruelty and conscience rare in the world of conquerors. Caesar returned to Rome. He studied rhetoric, mastered persuasion, and learned how words could conquer more than swords. In courts, he defended unpopular figures, not because he agreed with them, but because fighting for the marginalized gave him leverage over the elite. He climbed slowly Quaestor, Aedile, Pontifex, Maximus, at every level. He made Rome remember him. He hosted lavish games. He buried himself in debt to charm the people. This was not vanity. It was investment. In his late 30s, Caesar became governor of Gaul. It was there that myth met man. For nearly a decade, he led campaigns that extended Rome's borders to the Atlantic, crushed tribal rebellions, and built bridges where others saw only rivers. He fought not only for victory, but for narrative. He wrote his own account of the Gallic Wars in the third person, elevating himself while appearing objective. His enemies read his words, his citizens read his victories, and the Senate quietly grew afraid. Caesar returned to Rome as a legend, but legends rarely fit into systems. He he formed the first triumvirate with Pompey and Crassus. Together they ruled. But alliances in Rome were like tides, shifted by ambition, eroded by ego. When Crassus died, and Pompey aligned with the Senate, the triumvirate collapsed. The Senate ordered Caesar to disband his army. He refused, and so he crossed the Rubicon. It was a small river, shallow, unremarkable, but to cross it with troops was treason, and yet Caesar, calm as the dawn, guided his horse across. "The die is cast," he said. And the Republic, as it was already falling. Welcome back, dear listener. In part 1, we walked beside a young Julius Caesar, from his humble beginnings to the moment he stepped across the Rubicon. Tonight, in part 2, he returns to Rome, not as a soldier, but as a legend, and history, like the sky before a storm, waits in silence. Rome had changed, or perhaps Caesar had. The year was 49 BC. He entered the city unopposed. The Senate had fled. Pompey, once his closest ally, was gone. Caesar marched with calm purpose. He did not burn. He did not plunder. He reorganized, forgave, offered mercy. The streets didn't echo with fear. They echoed with hope to the people. He was not a tyrant. He was a promise. Bread, games, order. The war was not won in blood. It was won in memory. But not all were willing to forget. Pompey regrouped in Greece. The Senate rallied, and Caesar, ever decisive, gave chase at Pharsalus. The two titans clashed. Pompey's forces outnumbered his nearly 2-1. But Caesar, always the tactician, read men like maps. He saw their weaknesses, not in their armor, but in their hesitation. Pompey was defeated, fled to Egypt. There, he was betrayed, assassinated by a young pharaoh seeking Caesar's favor. They brought Caesar his rival's head. He did not rejoice, he wept. "This was once a great man," he whispered. Caesar stayed in Egypt for many months, and their history became legend. He met Cleopatra, not just a queen, a force of nature. Their alliance was political, but something deeper shimmered beneath the Nile's surface. He helped her secure the throne. Together, they had a son, Caesarion, in the cool chambers of Alexandria, between marble columns and perfumed scrolls. Caesar found a moment of stillness, but Rome did not wait. Returning to Rome in triumph, Caesar was declared dictator for life. But this was not the dictatorship of fear. He enacted laws to relieve debt, resettled veterans, reformed the calendar, limited term lengths for governors. He wore a crown of laurel, not of iron. He offered pardons, even to his enemies. And yet, it was this mercy, this control through kindness, that unsettled the elite, more than swords ever could. A man who holds power and chooses not to abuse it is harder to hate, but he is also harder to stop. He refused the title king. Rome had long memories. The word rex still burned like a curse. But they gave him statues, they gave him temples. They placed his image on coins, a first for a living Roman. The Senate began to lose its identity. Who were they if the Republic no longer needed them? Caesar sat in a golden chair in the Senate chamber, accepted honors without flinching, wore the robe of triumph like a second skin. Even the month of Quintilis was renamed Julius. The calendar itself now bowed to him. Behind closed doors, those who once stood by him now whispered, "He is becoming a god. He means to be king. We are no longer senators, we are his audience." Among the murmurs, Cassius and eventually Brutus, Caesar's protege, his friend, possibly even like a son. The betrayal would not come from hate. It would come from fear of what he might become. The signs returned. Storms raged without wind. Birds screamed in the forum. A lion gave birth in the street. A statue dripped blood. The soothsayer again appeared. Beware the Ides of March. Caesar dismissed him, but deep within, he began to feel a thinning in the world, a sense that time was bending inward, and something was ending. The night before his death, Caesar dined with friends. He laughed. He ate well. But when asked what kind of death he preferred, he answered softly, sudden, unexpected. That night, his wife Calpurnia dreamt of blood. She saw his body, pierced, wrapped in linen. She begged him to stay home. He almost agreed, but fate, dressed in the form of a senator named Decimus, arrived early the next morning. "They await you, Caesar. If you stay away, They will mock you as a coward. And so, he arose, put on his white toga, stepped into his sandals, and walked toward the last day of his life. Welcome back, dear listener. You are with Historian Radio, and the past continues quietly. In our last part, Caesar stood on the edge of eternity, worshipped by the people, feared by the Senate, warned by dreams and prophets, and now, the Ides of March has come. Let us walk softly beside him on the morning of his last breath. It is a crisp Roman morning. The skies are not dark, but unsettled, a strange stillness before movement. Inside his villa, Caesar wakes slowly. He feels uneasy. He turns to Calpurnia, whose eyes are still heavy with fear. "Don't go today," she says. "I dreamt. Again your blood ran in the streets. The people bathed in it. They smiled." He pauses, listens. Perhaps for the first time, he truly considers staying home, and then a knock. Decimus Brutus enters, trusted, polite, convincing. "They await you at the Senate. Caesar, the session cannot begin without you. Will Rome see her dictator frightened by dreams?" Caesar smiles, just a little, then sighs. He dresses in white, a flowing toga, his ceremonial sandals, a fresh laurel crown, and together, they walk toward the Curia of Pompey. His litter carries him through the streets. People pause, some cheer, some whisper. He nods, but speaks little. The cobblestones echo softly beneath the wheels, like drumbeats without rhythm, like fate, preparing its final note. At one point, a man tries to push through the crowd. A philosopher, they say, carrying a note, a warning. "Read this, Caesar, it concerns your life." But the crowd presses him away. The message never reaches Caesar's hand. He arrives at the theater of Pompey, a place of art, turned into a Senate chamber. The irony is not lost on history. He steps down. He walks toward the portico. His sandals kiss the stone. This is the last walk he will ever take. Inside. The chamber is cooler, dim, surrounded by columns and silence. Nearly 60 senators wait. Some chat, some sweat. They rise as Caesar enters. He smiles faintly. Tired, perhaps. Distracted. He moves to take his seat. Then Tullius Cimber approaches. "A petition, Caesar, for my brother's recall from exile." Caesar waves it off. This is not the time. Cimber grabs his shoulders, and suddenly, another senator pulls his toga. Another steps behind. Caesar rises in confusion. What is this? And then the first knife. It cuts his shoulder. He stumbles, looks around, his lips tighten. "Casca, what are you doing?" Casca stabs again. Then another, then another, then another. The room erupts, but not in shouting, only grunts, gasps, the soft, terrible sound of cloth tearing, of steel meeting flesh. Caesar tries to fight. He is still strong. He pushes one attacker back, swats at another, but they are too many, too quick, too determined. He is stabbed again, in the ribs, in the side, in the back. He stumbles toward the base of the chamber. Blood stains his toga. Then a final figure steps forward. Marcus Junius Brutus. The chamber seems to hold its breath. Even the blades pause. Their eyes meet, not as enemies, not even as rivals, as something deeper. A mentor, a friend, a father perhaps. Caesar blinks. His voice cracks. "Et2, brute, you too." And he stops resisting. He pulls his toga over his legs so his body will fall with dignity. He falls at the foot of Pompey's statue. A final twist of fate, a defeated rival witnessing Caesar's fall. Cast in stone. The chamber falls still. Blood on marble. Knives dropped. Silence, thicker than any speech. Brutus steps forward. Liberty is restored. But the words are empty. No crowd waits. No celebration comes. The senators look at one another. Faces pale, hands shaking. Some flee, others wander, in a daze. Outside Rome waits. And then news spreads. Not with trumpets, but with whispers. Caesar is dead. They killed him. In the Senate, the people do not rejoice. They gather quiet, then angry. They remember his kindness, his grain, his games, his forgiveness. They do not see tyrants. They see murderers. Mark Antony, Caesar's ally and consul, acts quickly. He retrieves Caesar's will. He plans a funeral. When the time comes, he stands before the crowd, reads the words Caesar left behind. He names Octavian as heir, leaves money to the people, gives his gardens to the public. And then Antony lifts Caesar's blood-soaked cloak, holds it high. "Here is the price of your liberty," he says. The crowd erupts. Mourning turns to fire. The streets burn. The mob storms the homes of conspirators. They flee the city. The Senate had hoped to save Rome, but they had no plan for the world without Caesar. The Republic did not return. It cracked. From that crack rose Augustus, Caesar's heir. Rome became an empire, and never again would a Senate rule alone. Julius Caesar's death did not mark the fall of a tyrant. It marked the beginning of empire. And perhaps of a story that never truly ended. Welcome back, listener. This is the final part of our quiet journey into the life, death, and legacy of Julius Caesar. He is gone now, left lying beneath the marble columns of the Curia, a man undone not by enemies, but by friends. Yet history did not rest. It shifted, it evolved. It watched the Republic fracture, and in the silence left behind, something vast awakened. This is the part of the story where endings give birth to beginnings, where a man becomes a myth, and a myth becomes an empire. In the days following Caesar's murder, Rome did not rise in joy. It wept. The people, once restless under his rule, now wandered the streets with grief burning behind their eyes. And then came his will. It was read aloud by Mark Antony, his consul, his ally, his remaining voice. It gave land to the people. It gave money to the poor. It gave Rome a new heir, not a senator, not Brutus, not even Antony, but a young man, Gaius Octavius, only 18, quiet, observant, named by Caesar as his adopted son. Rome blinked, and fate smiled. Meanwhile, the conspirators Brutus, Cassius, and others fled. They expected gratitude. They found only doors closed. No one wanted their hands near the flame of Caesar's blood. They wrote letters, justified their act, spoke of liberty, but liberty, like faith, requires belief, and the people no longer believed. Rome became a city of tension. Mark Antony, fiery and commanding, took charge of Caesar's legions, but in the shadows, young Octavian moved with quiet brilliance. He traveled to Rome, claimed Caesar's name, and began building loyalty, not with force, but with calculated grace. The Senate underestimated him. So did Antony, but Octavian knew that the true battlefield of Rome was not the sword, but public trust. In 43 BC, Rome was too broken for one man to rule. So, a pact was formed, the second triumvirate. 3 men, Antony the soldier, Octavian, the heir Lepidus, the placeholder. Together, they shared power, divided responsibilities, and swore vengeance. Their first act, a list, proscriptions, names marked for death, enemies of Caesar, enemies of the state. Blood returned to the streets. Rome became a place of shadows again. Among the dead was Cicero, the philosopher. "There is nothing proper about what you are doing, soldier," he said, "but do try to kill me properly." Eventually, even a pact of 3 must crumble. Lepidus faded into history. Antony turned east, to Egypt, to Cleopatra. And there, the seeds of myth took root again. The West whispered. Antony had become pharaoh, drunk on luxury, drunk on love. Octavian, ever the tactician, used silence as a blade. He spoke not to Antony, but to Rome. Does a Roman general kneel before a queen? Does he build armies for Egypt, or for us? And slowly, the people chose their side. The war was not just for Rome, it was for Caesar's legacy. In 31 BC, at Actium, Octavian's navy met Antony and Cleopatra's fleet. The battle was long, the sea unforgiving. In the end, Antony fled. Cleopatra followed, and Octavian stood, not as boy, but as the future. Months later, in Alexandria, Antony and Cleopatra took their lives. Not with shame, Cleopatra said, but with sovereignty. Rome did not crown emperors, it feared kings. It loved the illusion of the Republic, so Octavian took a new name, Augustus, meaning the revered one. He ruled not as a tyrant, but as a symbol, the first citizen, the Princeps. But make no mistake, he ruled. Under Augustus, roads were built, temples restored, coins minted, peace forged. And so, the Roman Empire began. Caesar was gone, but the shadow he cast became the shape of history. His death did not restore liberty, it removed the last illusion of it. Brutus' dagger may have struck down a man, but it gave birth to an age. The Republic whispered, the Empire shouted, and we still live in echoes of both. Thank you, dear listener, for traveling with us across time, ambition, betrayal, and silence. Julius Caesar lived only 56 years, but the path he carved through forests, marble, and memory still stands. At Historian Radio, we do not ask you to remember dates, we invite you to feel the stillness between them. Sleep well, and dream gently of marble halls and the breath before empire.